Welcome to today's CRM Magazine Roundtable web event, brought to you by Pitney Bowes, Informatica, Looker, and Snowflake Computing. I'm David Myron, Editorial Director of CRM Magazine, and I'll be the moderator for today's broadcast. Our presentation is titled, 4 Big Data Strategies You Can't Go Without. Before we start, allow me to explain how you can participate in this live broadcast. At the end of the event, there will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the Submit button. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been answered during the show, you'll receive an email response to it within a few days. Plus, if you'd like a copy of the presentation, you can download a PDF from the resource icon at the bottom of the console once the event is archived. Now to introduce our speakers for today's event. Joe Pindell is the Director of Global Solution Management at Pitney Bowes, and Mathi Prakasam is the Principal Product Marketing Manager at Informatica. Rich Taylor is the Senior Director of Marketing at Looker. And Kent Graziano is the Senior Technical Evangelist at Snowflake Computing. To review the speakers' bios, please click on the arrow under the speakers' photos. So now, without further ado, let me pass the event over to our first presenter, Joe Pindell, Director of Global Solution Management at Pitney Bowes. Welcome to the broadcast, Joe.
Thanks, David. Thank you for having us, and thank everyone for attending. Just wanted to go through and spend a few minutes and talk about big data, obviously from a Pitney Bowes perspective, talk about learning to trust it, and then succeed in business by enriching it. Obviously, the world is becoming ever more connected, and with regard to the amount of information that's available, customers are obviously using this information resulting from all of this connectedness, which is in demanding more experiences from businesses, which is leading to the whole age of the customer. And in order to respond to the increased customer expectation, businesses are really trying to utilize all of that big data, not just to meet expectations, but to try to exceed them in order to beat out competition. From a Pitney Bowes perspective, it's really around whether you can trust that data and then actually use it. So it's a little bit more about the data that exists. It really spans a physical and digital world around interactions or transactions. As you can see, with regard to ads and influence on brand decisions, a lot of the millennials actually say that digital ads combined with traditional ads are really the most effective to influence their decision. Direct mail is still an element of business today in marketing, and what it's doing more recently is it's driving activity and behavior of consumers more towards a company's website or a brand's website, or leading to other searches that go online. And then there's still physical stores for a lot of organizations, or physical locations that people go into, a site. And it's really a combination anymore between online shopping and then physically going into a store to complete a purchase, or being at a store and then supplementing that purchasing decision via a mobile phone. So there's really still 2 dimensions of the information that exists in the connected world. And if you take all of this interaction data or transaction data and you mix it with all of the other data that's available, like with a lot of the devices and sensors around the Internet of Things, as well as all of the mobile experience information that we have with smartphones, et cetera, and social media and e-commerce information, it really becomes the big data associated with all of this information really becomes either an opportunity or a struggle in most organizations. And how does all of this information impact the customer experience? Well, the challenge with it is it leads to the out-of-focus customer. So generalizations, or companies are relegated to generalizations about who they may be dealing with, and using those generalizations to guide the interactions. Failed initiatives with regard to trying to harvest information. It's still not being able to connect it and make use of the information. And it really just leads to incorrect assumptions about your business. Whereas the opportunity here is to harvest a lot of the information that is available and turn it into what we call the in-focus customer. So in order to do that, it's really around understanding that data and trusting it, getting to a point where you can trust it. It's organized by your customer, and it empowers businesses to make a more accurate and more successful or have more successful interactions with their customers. And this is a quote on the screen that is from one of our customers or clients that I think really crystallizes this circumstance for me. And it's basically, the quality of your data shapes your clients' impressions of your organization. So a little bit about what we at Pitney Bowes do is our approach is really in the enriching that customer data with all of the physical, digital information, the big data, if you will, to really establish that single view. And we really break it down into kind of 4 fundamental components. It's really around connecting and correcting all of the siloed data, the information that exists across an organization and different lines of businesses and systems, as well as connecting that information to other or harvesting other information, the Internet of Things, the social media, et cetera, to get that really clear picture of a customer. And then it's using that to add context to the customer profiles. So the more that you learn about that customer and bring them in focus, then the better you're able to interact with them, which is really to uncover utilizing those the enhanced context to uncover the next things or the actionable insights that exist about those people, to then really use the information, which is to create more powerful customer experiences. Regardless of whether the interactions occur in the digital world or the physical world or some combination in between. And we really are actually our own clients of our own technology. So the Pitney Bowes embarked on an internal project that was aligned with our strategy about becoming more customer-centric. And we've had several acquisitions over the last few years, which led to many different CRM systems and applications, as well as different billing systems. And our senior executives, our CEO on down, asked us to start a project to really, the first quote describes it, compile all aspects of the client experience into one view so that all of the employees of our organization could see the company's entire history with their client. So we embarked on our own single view project using our own technology and connecting a lot of the information that existed in Excel spreadsheets and multiple CRMs and billing systems, as well as uncovering a lot of information or enriching that information with a lot of third-party data that's available that we had different pieces and parts of. And all of this was done in a mechanism really for that single goal of the second quote there on the screen, to be able to leverage all of the information for predictive and trend analytics. Pitney Bowes, being in business for 96 years, we obviously have quite a few customers across our different internal lines of business, and it was really about focusing our efforts on treating our clients with a better focus, regardless of which formal division internal to the company that you would be with, that client would be working with. So with that, what I will do is pass it back to David.
All right, great. Thank you, Joe. Now let's pass the event over to our next presenter, Murthy Methi Prakasam, Principal Product Marketing Manager at Informatica. Welcome to the broadcast, Murthy.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to all of our attendees today for attending. This is a fantastic opportunity, and I just really think that there's so much that's sort of early stage in what, and all the things that we're talking about here today. And so it's just a really, really exciting time in the industry to be thinking about big data strategies and how it can particularly be used for enhancing customer experiences. Because, at the end of the day, a lot of these new technology platforms, they're sort of fueled by some sort of business case. That's what ultimately gets those technologies kind of over the hump and into the mainstream. And I think what we're starting to see is that, in fact, big data management and big data technologies are all coming into the broader kind of adoption stream because there's so much focus on getting closer to customers. And as the previous speaker talked about, this is a competitive advantage for a lot of organizations. The companies who understand their customers the best are the ones who are going to outcompete their competition. And so let me share a couple of our thoughts on how we've seen organizations do that, how they've been successful in doing that. So first of all, let's start with some high-level context here. And to some extent, a lot of our attendees probably already recognize this, but I think it's important to kind of start the stage here and really, really understand how the world is moving toward a fundamentally more consumer-oriented marketplace. And it's just not the marketplace that we all remember when we were all growing up. The customers today, they are expecting to have more choice, and they're expecting for those choices to be delivered to them in a far more targeted and personalized way. And so when you ask any kind of marketing department, if you could understand your customers a little bit better, how much is that worth to you, or is that worth something to you? There's practically nobody out there. This is a survey that was conducted. Most marketers would tell you that the classic way we've thought about marketing has been so coarse, and we've lacked that kind of understanding about customers at a fine-grained level to be able to really, really drive very, very precise, targeted, personalized offers, personalized campaigns. And that's really what we're talking about here today. It's about taking marketing itself and in other business processes beyond just marketing to a new level of precision based on good understanding of data. And clearly big data is a big aspect of this because the whole idea of big data is the fact that you just have more of it. And it's not just higher quantity, but it's also a higher variety of data that can all come together to provide a more holistic, more complete picture of end consumers or of any other types of data that are related to that consumer transaction. And so you see more and more people who appreciate and understand the value of big data and can kind of make the link between how gathering more and more types of data can translate into business value. That link is becoming a lot more obvious. And the good news is, hopefully it's good news, big data only gets bigger. And so all of us can kind of see this effect just when you think about the power of the smartphone that you have in your pocket right now and what smartphones looked like 5 years ago. The thing we have in our pocket today is exponentially and radically more powerful. So you think about the consumer of 5 years from now, the amount of data they're going to generate about the behaviors that they engage in when they're online, when they're doing transactions on their phone, when they're doing transactions on smartwatches. There's a whole new category of devices that will be generating data that organizations have the opportunity to embrace. And all of that data can, if used appropriately, turn into compelling business value. But as I said, it's not all great news because a lot of organizations aren't really designed around the ability to actually harness big data. They're designed around more traditional models where the data was a lot more structured, was a lot more limited in quantity, and so you could actually sort of get by with a little bit of sloppiness in terms of how you handle the data. There just wasn't a lot of data, so you didn't really have to think about the process and the structure and how you would actually go about this. And so this is precisely why you see a lot of organizations having struggles with big data. So this slide, we've taken some actual quotes. This is verbatim quotes from a lot of Informatica customers around what are the challenges that they face with big data. And you see just the idea, I won't read every quote, but you kind of get a sense of the themes here that just, the work itself in terms of physically getting this data into a form that it can be made useful and you can extract business value from, is very, very difficult. There's a lot of manual effort. There's a lot of delays. You see one of the VPs there talking about how preparing and cleaning the data takes 2 to 3 weeks. So, if we're talking about a world where consumers are, engaging with brands and organizations in real time, you can't be responding to the customer, 2 to 3 weeks later. Like some of these, service level agreements are just kind of unacceptable. And, the flip side of also data just becoming more and more pervasive is that it's more pervasive, so it's kind of all over the place. And so in a world of more, sort of globalization and data itself being spread throughout the organization, being able to actually bring it together, get some meaning out of it, and then finally extract analytical values, it's one of the biggest challenges that organizations are facing today. And so, the business impact of those challenges, when we talk about, well, things are sort of hard, slow, people sort of get it, but, does that matter to you if you're a chief marketing officer, for example, or you're a VP of sales? Do any of those kind of operational challenges around data matter? Oh, they absolutely matter, because somewhere you have stakeholders in the organization who are relying on data to help the organization grow. And if they can't get to the data, it's going to be hard to find it. It's going to be hard to derive correlations, understand which data sets are related to one another. So all that impacts your ability to actually be competitive. It's also hard and slow to do all the work that you need in terms of getting the data prepared and then share it amongst organization, stakeholders in the organization. And you aren't going to have one person who's consuming reports. I mean, it's going to be a lot of different people. It may not even be people. It could be other devices and other software that's consuming the data. So being able to distribute the data very quickly is important as well. And then obviously, if the data isn't even in great shape, then what's the point? You can't really trust the insights that are going to come out of it anyway. And so this is where Informatica has been helping a lot of organizations. And the idea here is, how can we enable a more systematic, more pragmatic, more practical approach to taking the data that organizations are looking to acquire, whether it comes from the website, whether it comes from devices, or even some of just the old school relational information that you already may have, and put that through a sort of process, a sort of supply chain, where you can actually do all the processes that I'm showing here on the slide, so that you actually have the data in a form that it is consumable, whether that's for your kind of classic business intelligence type of cases, or it's for data scientists who are trying to do some data mining, but it's about getting the data in the right form to the right people at the right time. And if we can do that in a more faster and repeatable way, then even as these big data volumes and complexities continue to increase, you're in a position to be able to extract that kind of business value from greater amounts and greater types of data without any of the kind of risks that you would be introducing by not having such a process and such a structure in place. And especially when you're talking about consumer data, obviously governance and compliance is another key area to manage, and all that is part of this platform. So you're able to actually get speed, repeatability, and a degree of protection from a process like this. Now, just to give you one tangible example, this is one of our customers who has used our kind of end-to-end comprehensive platform for big data management. And again, I won't read the slide. I can let you kind of read some of the key data points there. But the idea here was that this was not what you would kind of think of as a classic big data case where it was kind of an IT project. Rather, it was actually a project that came out of the office of the CMO. And the chief marketing officer, much like I think a lot of chief marketing officers today, said, look, I need to really, really get a better understanding of how customers are engaging with us. We're doing a lot more work online. I have no insight into how that behavior translates into some of the physical purchases that they end up making with us. I need to understand marketing attribution. I need to understand the entire customer journey. These are very, fair questions for chief marketing officers to be asking, given that data is theoretically available. But the question is, are organizations actually getting that value out of the data? And so we were able to help them with our software make the data available in a systematic and a repeatable way, so that they're not just doing this as a pet project, but this is actually now the new normal for the way they're extracting marketing value from big data. And they're able to do better market segmentation. They're able to get more campaign effectiveness. These are very, very difficult goals for most marketing organizations to achieve. And so to be able to actually do that and be able to do it over and over again is really, really big feat. for these guys. So that's just a quick overview of kind of the concept here. It's really about getting greater speed, greater agility, greater repeatability. Certainly, if you're more interested, I would encourage you to come check out our website to learn more about some of our solutions. So thank you very much, and back to you, David.
All right, great. Thank you, Murthy. Now let's hand the event over to our next presenter, Rich Taylor, who is the Senior Director of Marketing at Looker. Welcome to the broadcast, Rich.
Yeah, thanks, David. I'm glad to be here. I think Joe brought up great points with Pitney Bowes. I think a central view of customer data is extremely important. We see that all the time with our customers and getting the data in the right place and cleaning it, making sure it's accurate. I mean, we see that all the time. And then, really glad Informatica and Murthy kind of set us up for what we're talking about, that organizations facing barriers, those types of things, with big data and with data. So, for us, we sit on top of the database and we help you analyze and, explore your data. But we need all that data in one place. And so, as Murthy was talking about, there's lots of different sources. Where does that go? But once you get it in the database, well, then a lot of the issue comes with how do you get that back to the organization, back to the people at the front line. And that's where a lot of struggle and process comes in too. Getting the data in is sometimes the easy part. I started my career at a company called MySQL, so a database software company. I was there for a long time, and then kind of got into the Hadoop space with some different companies that I was at. And what I saw was tons of people were putting a lot of data into Hadoop, but getting the data out has been difficult for a lot of time. And what we've seen is a lot of people have the data in a place, and then there's some data scientists that can get to it, or different people that can get to it, but that's about it. And so we see this data bottleneck problem that has come up. And I think everyone's experienced this in some way in their career, where there's data, you have it, but how do you get to it? There's either a single person or a data team that you have to go to get the data, but you need answers to those questions so you can get your job done. I think Murthy brought up that somebody said 2 to 3 weeks to get data back. I had an experience where we were getting kind of leads real time in a sales organization, and then somebody wanted to make a process change that took 2 weeks to get the leads back. Well, the data shows that if you don't follow up on a lead within even 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that the likelihood of you connecting with them and setting a meeting, goes down almost 90%. So that action right there would have cost us a lot of leads and money and revenue, and it was just a data bottleneck issue of not getting access to things to do your job, and that's a big issue in a lot of organizations. And what people have done to solve that is kind of the opposite of give or take the data they have and use it in different ways, but it's all siloed. So if you have data that's in Excel and you're doing a lot of calculations on different things, and you have that data from maybe even a day ago, a lot of things can change. Or if you use some type of software where you can get access to certain parts of the data, but you don't have the full picture, that can also be problematic. So these are the things we see now in organizations where some people either have a data bottleneck problem or have this data chaos problem where lots of different people are doing analysis on different data sets, but they don't see the full picture. And so there needs to be balance. So our kind of goal for people is how do you find that balance? You want broad access and scalability and governance. You want all the security, but you also want self-service, agility, and flexibility. If only a few people can get to the data, it's not a good thing at all. And so we'll kind of say a similar customer example. A lot of what people have tried to do is make their CRM a database. And your CRM is not a database. It's not structured. There's no flexibility in CRM reporting. You can put more data in there, and that's what a lot of companies have tried to make it easy for marketing and sales teams to do, and customer success teams. But the reporting and exploring of data within a CRM is just not ideal. You can do some of it, and it can be somewhat real time, but it's very difficult. And mainly you want to analyze CRM data with other sources. So what about your transactional data? Is that in there? Your online store versus what your sales reps are doing? Your event and product usage data, is that in the same place. So an example for us is we have a customer called Donors Choose. So they take donations and help people make donations across different things. And if you Google Donors Choose data, they have a data science blog, which seems interesting for a donation, an online charity, and it's a very interesting way where they're able to put all the donations, different things they're doing, and make nonprofit more of an analytical way to work, and they're able to analyze all their CRM data with other sources and put that all in one place. And then kind of the last maybe thought here is when you centralize your data and you give access to everyone, you can put analytics in the right place at the right time. So for a lot of our customers, they embed reports within their own software or back into their CRM. So if they have product usage data, in fact, we do this ourselves internally, we have product usage data, how many customers are logging in, what are they doing, some of those type of things. We embed that right back into Salesforce so that if someone's in a record, they can easily see, hey, here's a Salesforce record. I can see the product usage. I'm about to call this person. I see all that data in one place instead of, having to go between different systems to get there. So embedding reports and putting them where they are. We also have customers that are, as Murthy said, how do you provide organizational value or value to your customers with data? Well, a lot of our customers have lots of data they're collecting about their customers and how people are using the software. And so they've built analytical products around our data platform to provide that back to their customers. So they're charging thousands of dollars to their customers to give them the data in a great format embedded within their software. And that's a great place to put analytics in the right place at the right time, where they don't have to send them a report or go get the data. It's just right there in the console. The other thing is sharing reports and making that easy. So sharing a URL that has a report in it, and it's the exact same thing that you see is what they see. And then you can discuss that either in person, or they can adjust the report, send you a URL back, and then get it right there. So as data, instead of having desktop applications, putting things more in the cloud and on the web allows you to get things right at your fingertips and easily shareable. Whether it's on mobile, on a device, or wherever you're at, you can look at the same picture instead of trying to share things back and forth. So schedule reports or dashboards, that's another way to put analytics in the right place at the right time. If every Monday morning you're running the same report, just schedule that report, have it pushed to you through email or the dashboard sent to you. Or you can also alert yourself. So if a threshold's broken, like hey, we're not hitting our daily sales, we're below 20% of our daily sales, and it's 3 p.m, why not send yourself a report that shows where it's at, where maybe you're lacking in spend on different things, and then push that out to the right people that can go make that happen. And then pipe data into sheets. So, a lot of the issue with spreadsheets is they become stale and they don't have the right data. So pipe that data from your database into those sheets that people are using. And then it's a better way to see, do additional analysis in ways people are comfortable with, perhaps in Excel or Google Sheets, and back to it. And then the final one, which is something I'm probably most excited about, one of our board members was on stage at a conference and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could just chat with your data and, instead of writing a SQL query, you just say, hey, what is this thing? And your database will come back to you, or your data platform will come back to you and tell you what that is. And so, probably the coolest thing that we've launched is slacking with your data, or a Looker bot for Slack. So the basic idea is if I'm in a meeting and I want to know who the account manager is for a certain customer, I can easily just Slack the customer usage or Slack my database, and it comes back to me with a chart or graph, or telling me exactly what the data is. I think that's putting analytics in the right place at the right time, where you have that data, it's accessible, but nobody wants to go write a SQL query to your database and connect and get it back to you. Where if it's already connected and it's in Slack, it's a very easy way to chat with your data and get it back. So there's that's the general idea of what we have. We think everyone should centralize their data. It's the right thing to do. Put it all in one place. give people access. Don't make a data bottleneck. Don't create data chaos by only giving subsets of information to some people. Yeah, there's security issues, and you can easily, have security around what data sets people see, but give people access to the data they need to do their job. And then, put analytics in the right place at the right time. And excited to hear from Snowflake, one of our partners, next, and I'll pass back to you, David.
All right, great. Thank you, Rich. Now let's pass it over to our next presenter, Kent Graziano, who is the Senior Technical Evangelist at Snowflake Computing. Welcome to the broadcast, Kent.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here. And thanks for that great introduction there to Snowflake. So as we've all been saying along here, one of the key opportunities we have with the big data world and the big data opportunity is getting access to more data, more kinds of data. But one of the challenges in all that is we really want to have people be able to focus on the data and getting insights and value out of that data and really getting to the data faster. Getting that data in and through the pipeline and available to the end users and to the business analysts much faster. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a more recent trend in the big data space called elastic data warehousing that's going to help facilitate us getting to our data faster. So with this big data and the big data opportunities that have come with us have come, some realities. We have all kinds of data out there. You've got not just your CRM data in your standard CRM applications. We've now got software as a service, and so you've got CRM data and customer data up in the cloud. You have social data like Twitter feeds and things coming in, and you still have your standard Excel spreadsheets that everybody works with those, always has, they always will, and that's a reality that we have to deal with. To get all that data together in one place and to handle the different structures, the semi-structured, the unstructured, and the structured data, we've developed these new concepts and these new tools out there in the Hadoop and the NoSQL space. But trying to put that all together has become increasingly complex. We have different technologies, different programming languages, different ways of moving the data around to try to get to that quote-unquote single version of the truth that we're all looking for. And that has caused some barriers for our analysts and our data scientists in trying to really get to that data and get to it quickly. The current solutions in the data warehousing world have gotten to be a lot more costly. You have to do a lot of capital planning, capacity planning, figure out how much you're going to need. You need to budget for it. You need to get it all set up. It requires a lot of administration to get the performance, to really get that speed that we're looking for out of the traditional warehouses. Now along comes Hadoop and NoSQL, and those, they're great for handling this new kind of data that we have, but with them come new skill sets and challenges with the tools and the performance and trying to, again, still achieve that speed to insight that we're looking for. And you're having to do a lot of engineering to put things together in order to make it all work. Along comes the cloud. And in the cloud, we now have new opportunities to change this and make things better for us overall. Instead of expensive storage, we now have the opportunity for low-cost and near infinite storage in the cloud. We call that elastic storage. And instead of having just a piece of hardware in a data center that's got X number of CPUs, and man, that's just not enough for us, we've got to go buy some more. In the cloud, we have the opportunity to, again, have elastic resource capability in near unlimited resources to those of us who are working in the cloud. Much easier to get to that data and to get the resources to run the queries and to load the data and move it all. The old way, a lot of high upfront costs. The new way in the cloud, we're all very familiar with that now. It's pay as you go, pay for what you need. So one of the things at Snowflake is our vision. We really wanted to come up with a way that we could make data warehousing available for everyone in this new cloud world, take advantage of the elasticity and agility of the cloud and still have that flexibility and scalability that is inherent in the big data world and can handle all those different data types. While at the same time, we don't want to lose the performance and enterprise capabilities that have come with our legacy data warehouse platforms. We need a new way to do things, and that's what drove the founders of Snowflake to try to come up with a different way of doing this. And so we wanted to make use of the cloud, and there are solutions now in the cloud that do take advantage of it, a way that you can come in and bring in all this diverse data and bring it to one place instead of to 2 or 3 places and then having to bring it together to get your insights. So let's bring that semi-structured and structured data into one place where we can all access it the way we're used to with our reporting tools and with SQL. We want to be able to get the fast analytics. Again, without being resource constrained, we can now get to our data and our value faster. We can run more, we can process more, we can get those insights that we are really looking for at a rapid pace. But one of the keys to the whole thing with the cloud is this ability to have software as a service and eliminate that whole management piece of having to build infrastructure and manually manage that and manually tune it. And that's one of the things that is slowing people down in getting to the value of their data is they get the data loaded, and then they may have to do a lot of work in order to get it to the point that they can actually do the queries in a reasonable amount of time and actually get their insights that they're looking for. And of course, as I said, with the cloud, we can do it all at a fraction of the upfront cost. How this happens is some unique technologies. Having come up with the cloud and the architecture of a cloud allows us to take advantage of new architectures for the warehouses. Using them independently at near infinite now available in
Kent, this is David. You're breaking up a bit. If you could, make an adjustment and take it from there.
Okay.
Much better, thank you.
Very good. I was talking with my hands too much. I'm talented. It's one of those things that goes with it. So, getting that data all in one place and having a cloud-native database that can handle the data from the cloud, such as JSON and web logs and Twitter streams. And then being able to then put that in the context of a service so we can automate, eliminate a lot of the infrastructure and management burden that we've all had in the past. So one of the other innovations here is this multidimensional elasticity. So not only can we scale for storage, as you need more storage in the cloud, you just simply use it and you can grab it and attach to it without a lot of upfront planning. You're not having to go spec it out and then have servers and hardware shipped in and then plugging in new disks. It happens almost automatically to most of us as we're working with things in the cloud. We can just load the data and the space expands or contracts as we need it, as we load the data. And then the scaling, being able to scale up and scale down. As we have more intensive queries, we can add power, we can add nodes, and scale it up as we need it to get to that power. Then concurrency. Because of the fact that we have this elastic scalability, we can spin up multiple nodes for different workloads. So now we can have something for our ETL processes running separately from our data scientists, running separately from our ad hoc query users, so none of them are having to contend for resources. And the cloud gives us the ability to do that. From the Snowflake perspective, we've partnered with companies like Looker and Informatica, who are two of our great partners that natively connect to Snowflake so that not only we can now streamline that process using Informatica to get the data into the cloud whether it's from traditional data sources or cloud-based data sources. And then once it's in there, it can be immediately made available through tools like Looker to the end user so that they can start querying that data as soon as it's in. We have standard SQL access. That's a must. More people in the world in the database and the reporting community understand SQL than understand a lot of the other technologies that are required in some of the big data spaces. So we want to make that simpler for everyone so that we can simply access it with tools that we already know and love. So in the field, what some of the things that we are hearing from our customers, use cases that they need, and I think the other speakers all pointed this out, the disparity of data and data silos all over the place, and where do you go to get the data? With the cloud big data solutions like Snowflake, with the elastic data warehousing, we can now pull all that data into one place. And so there's only one place you need to point to, and everybody's pointing to that same set of data. Everybody's looking at it, and we really now are able to achieve that single version of the truth that everyone's been looking for years. We're able to integrate data analytics with structured and semi-structured data and be able to report across both and join them together in a native way with SQL. And then also being able to facilitate exploratory and ad hoc analytics at scale and not have to worry about it causing the loads to run too slow or the other reports to run too slow, that we can give people access to that because of the elastic scalability that is available. Actual results from some of the customers we've had at Snowflake by going to a single elastic warehouse solution, they've been able to eliminate multiple steps of their pipeline and go from an 8-hour preparation process to a minute and a half. Be able to get faster analytics instead of 20 hours processing on a traditional data warehouse appliance. They can now get their results in 45 minutes. And that's what we're really talking about, is being able to get more data and get more data projects done faster, expanding people's access to it, and having it at a lower price point, which the cloud affords us that opportunity. So just one specific customer, Cap Specialty, is an insurer, and they were needing to look at, of course, customer data, customer profiles, ratings, and then how that interacted with their insurance products. They were looking at a massive cost for an upgrade to be able to handle their increased business, and as a result of deploying an elastic data warehouse solution, they got 120 times faster in their processing, and that was the 20 hours down to 45 minutes that I cited on the previous slide. And because they only pay for what they use, it's allowing them to grow incrementally and not have a huge upfront cost. And the fact that it's a service in the cloud means it's an easy deployment, and they've lost a lot of the effort that they had to do in just maintaining things. So in the end, I think that this elastic data warehousing in the cloud is one of those big data opportunities that's now out there. It's real, it's available, secure. One of the other big things people always worry about. It's very much secure, and we'd love to help people work on it. So
all right.
Thank you all. David, back to you.
Great. Thank you, Ken. Now I'd like to begin our question and answer session. I'd like to remind our viewers that if you have a question, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. As I stated earlier, we'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been selected during the broadcast, you will receive an email response to it within a few days. Okay, so now my first question goes to Murthy at Informatica. Murthy, how does big data management make achieving a compelling customer experience more practical than other approaches?
Well, I think practicality really comes down to manpower. This is one of the biggest challenges a lot of organizations have. They're just trying to throw more and more people at the problem, and that doesn't scale. And for all kinds of other reasons too. The technologies keep changing, and there's just a lot of reasons why trying to solve this problem through people just doesn't sort of work, and there's nothing repeatable about it either. And so the practicality of using big data management is that you're not relying on people, you're relying on an automated process. And I think, I mean, everything, like all the speakers we've talked about today, kind of rely on that theme of offload this effort from people onto some tools that can help your people, get to better speed, better accessibility, better repeatability.
All right, Murthy, another question for you. Are there any best practices for initiatives that use big data management successfully?
That's a great question. So I mean, it's sort of the reverse of the other question, I guess. So if you kind of put the technology aside, just other best practices, I think, I mean, a lot of the speakers today touched on, I think, this idea that there's more people who are trying to get access to data. And so in this kind of world where data isn't just a sort of siloed activity and it is something that's becoming more pervasive, I think you're seeing more of these kind of agile development type processes, where you have cross-functional teams. It's not just sort of IT working in the closet somewhere. They kind of have business stakeholders. They have weekly meetings. They kind of identify requirements on a more frequent basis than maybe you would have a couple of years ago. And then they're able to kind of test out new ideas, try out a new data model. So just the whole process, I think, of kind of delivering data has become less of a kind of 6-month-long type of integration project, and it's become more of an agile type of data integration process.
All right, great. Thanks for that. Next, I'd like to bring Rich from Looker into the discussion. Rich, seems data is easy to get into big data solutions like Hadoop, but it's hard to get data out. How do we let people get to the data that they need?
Yeah, I think lately there's been a lot more advances in the technology, so like Spark and Hive and other ways to get, like I think Kent mentioned SQL is kind of the language that everyone knows. It's the standard for analytics. Writing a Python script to get data out and putting that into another data warehouse to then get to the analytics is not the right way to go. So using the technology or SQL connectors to Hadoop allows people to get more and more data out, and I think that's one of the ways that people are getting closer and closer to that data. And as that becomes more and more pervasive, it'll be easier and easier.
All right. Murthy, can you talk a little bit about some best practices for initiatives that use big data management successfully?
So it's sort of similar to the previous question, I think. Again, I think there's kind of two aspects to how you get successful. One is the technology side, obviously getting out of doing a lot of work manually and getting more automated. And I think everybody who spoke today, provides solutions in that area. And the other side of it, I think from a process standpoint, is just getting more agile and not viewing these types of initiatives as 6-month, 12-month type of initiatives. Being able to deliver projects in a matter of a week or even less is a fantastic goal to have, and it's just a matter of putting in a standard process so that it's not just complete chaos, but rather you have a process where you meet with business teams, you meet with different stakeholders, you're meeting with governance teams. Everybody's getting together on the same page on a very, very frequent basis. That's sort of how I think you get these projects delivered more quickly and more efficiently.
All right, thanks. And Rich, another question for you. When most of your data is in a CRM system, why would you replicate that into a database or a data warehouse?
Yeah, I think the issue with the CRM system is that it's stuck in there. It's not made for analytics. So, Salesforce has had the same reporting tool for a long time. I think Microsoft's a little better. Sugar CRM's, maybe not as good as reporting. So, and also getting other data sets to connect to that. And it's not replicating all of it. I think it's very difficult to see there's some great things about being in Salesforce or in your CRM to get that data, but you need to get it out to connect it to other things. And whether that's customer data, those different things. And using it as your system of record to update that is important. And a lot of the analytics you need to do may not be real time, so replicating every day or different times could be useful, or we replicate quite often in our instance. So the main thing is connecting that to other data sources and making sure you're seeing a full picture of your customer.
All right, thanks for that. Let's bring Joe into the discussion. Joe, regarding your single view solution, do you have a recommended architecture?
That's a really good question. We don't. Our technology is really built in a service-oriented architecture manner. And, you heard some really good information from the other speakers about, there are many different approaches that organizations have to use at their disposal based on their specific business processes, et cetera. And we feel that our technology fits in and across a lot of those areas to kind of fill the gaps in some aspects and treat it more of an enterprise. So from a technical architecture, we really, we fit in and work cooperatively with a lot of the other repositories of information, as well as the single systems that do things like campaign management for marketing, et cetera. So we don't really have a recommendation. We defer to kind of what makes sense for each client on a client-by-client basis.
Okay. What are your thoughts then on how to jumpstart an initiative, or maybe breathe life into one, or many stalling initiatives?
Well, honestly, I think that's where a lot of people are. At least a lot of the clients that we work with usually have one or many initiatives going on, whether those are something like big data, whether it's customer centricity, et cetera. Where we've helped our clients achieve success is really around picking an area, a business area, and measuring the results on business impact or outcome or the results. For instance, maybe a marketing campaign or a marketing approach to deliver a targeted message to a specified audience in order to increase or response rates, if you will, or trying a different channel or something of that matter. So if you try to boil the ocean, it typically doesn't work. And so, our recommendation and what we're seeing a lot more clients do to gain success is start in a small area, become successful in a short period of time, meaning weeks and a month or so, as opposed to multi-month efforts, and get the business results and then piggyback off of that success.
All right, Joe, I have a question from one of our viewers who asks, in the slide where you wrote add context for customer profile, what exactly does context refer to? What are context examples?
That's a great question. So it's really almost becoming more of a buzzword at this point. It's really a catch-all term that you see a lot. What we talk about with regard to context is really, when you look at it from a client perspective and client profiles, a lot of information people have are about just the individual, their name, address, age, gender, potentially. But it's really what we refer to as more comprehensive and talks about the relationships that individual may have, whether they're a part of a household, whether they belong to organizations, memberships, or what their social affiliation is, and then the activities or the interactions that they have with the organization, billing history, service history, marketing history. Have they been in campaigns? Have they not been in campaigns? And so, location is a real key element of context in our mind, especially during the interaction. So are they mobile? If this is an insurance capability, the fact that they're maybe reaching out or creating an interaction in a mobile capacity, is that an accident, or is that some situation that the context associated with that interaction, is that something that you should address or be conscientious of? So that's a really great question, and it depends. Every business has a different definition of what they would consider to be that customer context. Hopefully that answers the question in a little bit more detail of what our perspective is.
All right, thank you. Let's bring Kent into the discussion. Kent, you had some impressive numbers to share with regard to putting data into the cloud. Can you talk a little bit more about that? How can a cloud-based data warehouse service help a company reduce its time to analysis?
Well, one of the key pieces is by eliminating all that infrastructure management and the tuning, we've found with our customers they're now able to load their data into the cloud database and immediately start querying it and not have to spend a whole bunch of time with DBAs and system administrators figuring out how to stripe the data properly. So, we're talking about big data, right? We're not talking about a little bit of data. People got a lot of data and they're trying to stream it in, and some of our customers are doing that. They're streaming in web logs, and those are in JSON format and able to go right at it with SQL and start analyzing it as soon as it's in the database without having to spend a lot of time. So from an agile data warehousing perspective, it's enabling them to deliver results faster because it's eliminating some of the steps that they traditionally had to do. One of our clients had a series of NoSQL databases in front where they were having to load their JSON data into that and then parse it out into tables before they moved it into their relational data warehouse so that they could access it and do their analytics. They were able to eliminate that entire step by pushing it straight into Snowflake. And so it's taking advantage of the new technology that really is available, that the cloud's made available to us, has allowed people to speed up their process a lot.
All right, thanks for that. We have about 30 seconds left, so I have one more question for you. Kent, is their data secure in the cloud?
Yes, it absolutely can be. In the case of Amazon, AWS, and Snowflake, we have encryption mechanisms in place. Snowflake, if you put your data in the Snowflake database, it's automatically encrypted. It's 256-bit encryption. It's encrypted as you're loading it. It's encrypted at rest. And so it absolutely can be done. I know it's a huge worry for people out there that, my data is not secure. Well, the data centers behind the cloud are more secure than Fort Knox these days because they have to be. Because if we're going to all move to the cloud, we have to have that security in place. We have to protect people's data, or it's not going to be a viable business model.
All right, great. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions today. We apologize that we were unable to answer all the questions, but as I stated earlier, all questions will be answered via email. I'd like to thank everyone who submitted questions and thank our speakers today, Joe Pindell, Director of Global Solution Management at Pitney Bowes, Murthy Prakasam, who is the Principal Product Marketing Manager at Informatica, and Rich Taylor, Senior Director of Marketing at Looker, as well as Kent Graciano, who is the Senior Technical Evangelist at Snowflake Computing. If you'd like a copy of the presentation, you can download it once the event is archived. And if you'd like to review this event or send it to a colleague, please use the same web address that you used for today's event. It will be archived for 90 days. Plus, as a courtesy, you'll receive an email once the archive is posted. And just for participating in today's event, you can win this Google Chromecast. The winner will be posted on our website, www.destinationcrm.com, on April 29th. Please visit the website to see if you're the winner. Finally, if you stay on the console at the end of the event, you'll automatically be directed to the CRM Evolution Conference page. Attend this 2.5-day event to bring your CRM efforts to the next level. This concludes our broadcast. Thank you for joining us.